Hi, good afternoon. This is the Jones versus Star Credit Corp analysis that I chose to do for the final presentation. It is my Module 5 case analysis. My name is Kenyatta Bodden. I am your presenter with Professor Dalton, and we can get started. So we have our company profile, Star Credit Corporation. They specialized in financing household goods for low income families, operated through high interest installment contracts, charged far above retail value for basic appliances, and their business model reflected predatory lending practices of the 1960s. So Star Credit Corporation focused on selling home appliances to families who could not afford paying upfront. So instead of offering them fair credit terms, they inflated the prices, kind of like having a monopoly in that community, or as far as the sector of low income people who couldn't afford to pay up front. So they kind of trapped the families in long term debt that they knew offhand that the families could not afford. So that was a common issue during the rise of the consumer credit issues in the 1960s. So the case background goes, Clifton and Cora Jones bought a home freezer. The price was listed at $300 by the location that they were buying it from. The total contract cost ended up being $1,234.80, which is over 4 times the original value that they were responsible for paying, or should have been responsible for paying. The Joneses sued, arguing that the price and terms were very exploitative. So the key issue was the contract unconscionable, very unconscionable, and therefore unenforceable, meaning that it was so egregiously far beyond what the terms initially was and what it fairly should have been, that they feel like they shouldn't be responsible for it. So the Jones family purchased the freezer. They ended up being overcharged by $1,200 after the interest and fees. They argued that Star Credit Corporation definitely took advantage of their situation, of their limited means, while the company insisted the contract was voluntary, meaning they saw the terms of the contract and still agreed to sign it. So the question before the court was whether such a contract was so unfair, so egregious, as I just mentioned, that it violated basic principles of justice. So the arguments of each party. The Joneses argued that the contract's cost was morally and legally unfair. So basically, morally and ethically, I myself would not have been able to knowingly overcharge people, especially knowing that they were of a certain income bracket. Just charge them egregiously high interest rates and fees. That's kind of like setting them up for failure. So they said the company preyed on poor consumers who didn't fully understand their rights. That is another issue. Um, and Star Credit's defense focused on the idea of freedom of contract, that adults have the right to make their own deals, even if they agree to bad ones. As I just stated, that they felt like, well, we provided the contract, you were able to read over it, and you agreed to the contract. So they felt they shouldn't be uh, held liable and take a loss. Well, would it even be a loss considering that they were overcharging? Let's see here. So the court's decision, the court ruled in favor of the Joneses, declared the contract unconscionable under the UCC. They found the price disproportionate to the product's true value and established limits on freedom of contract. So the court sided with the Joneses, calling the agreement unconscionable. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, this decision reinforced that while contracts are generally binding, they cannot be enforced if they shock the conscience or take advantage of consumers in unfair ways, especially in financial constraints, such as the parties in this case. The impact on business and industry. This ruling didn't just affect one company, it changed how businesses approach consumer finance. It led to stricter oversight on installment and credit agreements. Today, the same principles apply online when users accept terms of service. Fairness and transparency remain the central concern and focus. Comparative case would be the William versus Walker Thomas Furniture case, a closely related case. William versus Walker Thomas Furniture involved a furniture store that repossessed all items after just one missed payment. Just like Jones, they were in a financial constraint type of situation, financial hardship, could not afford to pay up front. So it exposed how some companies exploited customers through complex contracts. So together, these cases became foundational in shaping the doctrine of unconscionability. So, in conclusion, I definitely agree with the court's ruling because it ensured that businesses couldn't profit by exploiting people in situations like the Joneses. So, the Jones versus Star Credit Corp remains a cornerstone for consumer protection and business ethics. It reminds us that while profit drives commerce, fairness sustains trust, and that's essential for any legitimate business environment. Thank you.